Hernando Suvalsky is a Ukrainian who has left things way too late. Roughly 2 weeks ago, Russians began invading the country, and he decided it was high time to leave the country and flee to Hungary. He packed up all his essentials like food, clothes, and other sanitary items, as well as some money which he kept in his pocket. After doing some quick maths, he found it would take him 9 days to walk there, so he set off on his journey. He never really liked his place in Ukraine, and he never had enough money to leave and go someplace new. But here he is, fleeing the country to someplace completely different. He walked through the forest to save the risk of getting found by soldiers walking on the road. For the first few days, Hernando was moving along, covering around 350 kilometers. But day 4 was where everything went wrong. He was crossing a small river which was blocking his path to the other side when he slipped and fell over. It wasn't too deep, and he managed to hold onto a stick and pulled himself to the other bank when Hernando realized he no longer had his backpack on. Hernando turned just in time to see it sink beneath the water about 50 meters downstream. He was going to have to do the rest of this walk without anything but the money he had in his pocket. Hernando thought he was done for, alone in the middle of the forest with no shelter, food, or drink. But like a miracle, the next day he stumbled across a small town with poor houses but no damage done to it. He assumed they were safe from the Russians. Hernando knocked on a few doors, but after a while gave up. It was pretty late and no one seemed to be awake, so he decided to go to sleep on somebody's lawn. In the morning, he woke up by a 50-year-old man standing over him. "Who are you?" he asked. "What were you doing sleeping on my front lawn?" Hernando hurriedly got up and explained to him his story. After he told him, he seemed to soften up. "Now I just need to walk 500 more kilometers to Hungary, but I lost my backpack with all my gear, so now I am alone and I have no way of getting there alive," Hernando said. The man seemed to think for a second before saying, "I have family in Hungary. I can check up on them. I can drive you there with me, but it will cost you." Hernando reached into his pocket and pulled out a wad of cash that didn't seem to get ruined by the water, so he gave him the lot. "There must be at least $100 in there," Hernando said to him. "100? This is 300. Come with me, friend. We'll leave right away." He led him to his car, and after a few minutes inside his house, he came out with a bag he threw in the back. Soon they were on the road, reaching speeds of 90 an hour. He soon learned his name was Alexei. After a day of driving, the sun was rising, and they were reaching the end of their ride. Up ahead, the duo saw a sign, and he pointed to it, saying, "There it is, Hungary." But as they got closer, they realized that there were some people waiting. They were Russian troops. Hernando could hear his friend swearing under his breath, then said to him, "When they pull us over, we need to make sure we get out of the car and run for the border. If we can make it over, then we will be fine." Hernando nodded, worried. They slowly got to a stop, and the Russians ran up to the car holding guns. "Ready?" he whispered. Hernando held his breath. "Go!" he yelled. They both opened the car doors and bolted out. Hernando dived into the trees nearby as the first bullets began to fly. He started to run, dodging trees, getting closer and closer to the border until he heard a cry from behind them. It was Alexei, and he appeared to have been shot in the leg. Hernando ran back to him. "Don't worry, I'll help you over the border." He hooked his arm around his friend and began to run. Bullets were zipping everywhere. He saw the border right in front of him. They jumped and made it. Hernando's 9 days of struggle had come to an end.